No, thank you. Sleepy. You come back in an hour. Need sleepy. Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing all right. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Today's show is being brought to you in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria, an Italian restaurant located in beautiful St. Simons Island, Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328. 912-268-2328. Today's show is also being brought to you in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. If you're looking to get a free copy, visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing Magazine cover, which is located on the right-hand side. And speaking of the BillyCBoxing.com website, we are still trying to get in touch with Google to correct their link when you search BillyCBoxing.com. So listen, I know everybody has gotten into the habit of using Google as basically their access to websites. But trust me, go to the top toolbar and type in www.BillyCBoxing.com directly, because if you go through the Google search, now you can go through Yahoo search, but if you go through Google search, their link, not our website, will send you to... Well, not our website. Let's just say that, okay? If you're into porn, you might want to go through the Google site. And that's the problem with Google. Everybody uses Google. You get a corrupted link, and there's no human being to get in touch with to tell them. That's the problem with today's technology. Also, speaking of today's show is being brought to you in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can literally get a copy of it right now by visiting barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. And if you're looking to get a signed copy, visit our website, not through the Google link, but through the direct link, www.billycboxing.com, and click on the book club section. Big news in boxing took place over the weekend. Triple G has his opponent set. It's taking place September 10th in England. Everybody thought it was going to be against Chris Eubank, including myself, but apparently Chris Eubank positioned himself out of the ranking for the fight, or positioned himself out of line for the fight. And who steps in? I think a better fight. Kell Brook against Triple G, September 10th in England. Joining me right now, my partner in crime, Sal Santa Cola. What's up, Sal?
Oh boy, a little extra roll on that rumble. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm a little jacked up today. First of all, the weather is fantabulous here in upstate New York, at least in the Adirondacks. It's actually a little chilly. The rain finally stopped. We finally got some much-needed rain over the weekend. But today looks like it's going to be a great day. We got some great news in boxing. I liked the fight. I know you and I had a quick chance to talk about it over the weekend, plus a few minutes ago. Triple G going up against Kell Brook. What's your initial thoughts of this one for September 10th?
I think it's a great fight, and I'm very excited about it. Again, it's just what we're looking for when fighters want to step up and challenge themselves and challenge the best. You have one of the best welterweights in the world going against one of the best middleweights in the world. So it's a great fight, and on paper initially it's going to definitely get everyone's attention, and then there's going to be those that are going to say, hey, it's going to go this way, it's going to go that way. And I'm very excited about it, Billy. How do you feel about it?
I love it, and I agree with how you started your thought. Kell Brook has become an exception in boxing, because what I mean by that is the exception is stepping up and challenging himself. I mean, most other fighters today, Sal, as we talk about all the time, they take the easy way out. The easy way out, but not Kell Brook. Kell Brook is clearly taking the tougher way out. He does have some advantages in this fight. He's taller. He's a good boxer. He's got great movement. But my initial thoughts, I think Triple G is going to show everyone why I feel he's the best ring general in the sport of boxing today, and probably of the last 20 years, because I think he'll be able to cut the ring off and take control of this fight. And of course, the naysayers, the people that don't want to give Triple G credit, are going to give him a hard time for fighting a smaller guy. But let's face it, Sal, everyone does that.
Everyone, you can't please everybody. You got to just do what's best and stick to your guns and stick to your opinions of what's good. And this is a great fight. I'm telling you right now, he's stepping up, and that's what I like. He's a very proficient fighter. He's a special fighter. They both are. They're both very special fighters, and definitely that's why they have no O. They have the O's in their record there. They very, very deliberate. I saw Kell Brook with a lot of his fights, and he's very purposeful. He's not a porpoise, but he's purposeful. He's deliberate. He's a clean puncher. Even when he fought Sean Porter, I thought at times he looked a little more dominant than Keith Thurman in beating Sean Porter.
The funny thing is I think, I'm glad you brought up Sean Porter, because I think that the initial game plan going in, and I'm just assuming this, and you know what they say about that, but I'm assuming that Kell Brook's team is looking at a similar game plan that they employed when they fought Sean Porter. The big difference is that Triple G, like I have stated many, many times, he controls the ring, bro. He's a guy that will force a fighter to go where he wants. And I think that you're going to see Kell Brook trying to be on his bicycle for the first part of this fight. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think Triple G will catch up with him and stop him in this fight. And I think that I like the fight. I like the fight. And but I think my early prediction is Triple G by stoppage.
Me too. That's where I'm going with that. But I think it'll be a little later. I think Kell Brook is going to show he deserves to be in the ring, and he's going to be trying to be evasive. He's going to be quick with the jab. He's going to be on his bike. But I think he's going to also try to, surprise Triple G and come at him with the jab and see if he can stay on the outside a little bit and avoid those hard punches. But again, you're looking at the very special fighter and the ring general that you call him, and he certainly is in Golovkin. He's just a master in the ring. Yeah. He cuts it off. He punches. He's effective. He's definitely what you call effective aggressiveness. He could utilize.
Yeah, and what I like about Kell Brook, moving up in weight. Challenging Triple G like you're supposed to. Go to the champions, and no, Kell Brook's a champion too, but I mean, go to this weight class that you want, challenge him in his own weight class. And what I admire about Triple G, once again, he shows he doesn't care where he fights. He's going into Kell Brook's backyard. He's going to England to fight. Something a lot of so-called champions or former champions or retired former champions, they don't do. They have to have everything their way. And to me, it's like, like I said once before to you, it's like playing Monopoly when you're always the banker. Every once in a while, you gotta be, go into someone else's backyard, and I give I give Triple G credit for that, and I give Kell Brook, of course, credit for even stepping in to the ring. And as I talk about this, I have an email, and this one's about this fight, Sal, and it's from our buddy Alex T. He says, yes. Hey, Billy C., I like this fight. No one will fight Triple G at 160, and despite the cherry-picking BS we see these days, this is the way boxing used to be. The best fighters would go up in weight, especially the welterweights. History is littered with the welterweight champions who went up to 160, and many of them who won the title. This is old-school stuff. The best welterweight in the world is fighting the best middleweight in the world, and all the credit has to go to Brook for being a throwback fighter who has the balls to take a chance, and he's not being afraid to lose his zero in his loss column. I agree with Alex T. 100%. What do you think?
I agree 100% as well, and you know what? Again, this reminds us of like when Billy Conn stepped up to fight Joe Louis. I mean, this is the kind of things that legends are born and great fights evolve. And, when I first heard it, I'm thinking, okay, who is this better for? Who has nothing to lose? Well, Kell Brook's in a great position because he doesn't have too much to lose except of the fight. But I mean, for his future marketability, he's still great. He retains his welterweight championship title, and he goes up to fight for the middleweight championship title. It's like Joey LaMotta talking to his brother Jake when he fights Billy Fox. Hey, Jake, you know what? It's a good fight. If you win, you win. If you lose, you still win because you had to go this. So you win, it's a win.
Exactly. I mean, a win.
It's a win for Brook. It's a win for both of them. It's a win for boxing.
No doubt. And there's there's a need for these kinds of fights, Sal. I mean, there really is. And you have two guys that are like you mentioned, arguably at the top of each of their own divisions, and stepping in and fighting each other. And everybody thought, including myself, that Chris Eubank Jr. Was the guy. There was a lot of negotiation going on between the two. But his promoter, Eddie Hearn, basically said, hey, Eubank Jr. and his team were making it impossible to make this fight happen. They were making outrageous demands. And they finally had to close the door and go to the next option, which happens to be a bigger name. And I think a better, I think it's going to be a bigger dollar fight for both fighters. And this is my point. I say it all the time, Sal. Fighters say, oh, he doesn't want to fight us. They chicken out or whatever. They refuse to fight us. But they leave out the other part. If Chris Eubank comes out and says, well, Triple G ducked me, he wouldn't want to fight me, he's going to leave out the part that they were making outrageous demands that, also make it impossible to make the fight.
Absolutely.
Shame.
No, it's so true. I know.
Hey, I just want to mention my man Coach is in the chat room, and I just want to give our thoughts and condolences to him on his recent loss. I won't get into it until Coach gives us the okay to, but he's an important part of the show. We had a lot of fun with him a couple of weeks ago down in St. Simons, and everything was positive, so obviously something tragic and sudden happened, and I just want Coach to know that all of us here in the Billy C. Boxing family offer him our condolences, and our prayers will be for him and his family during this difficult time. Very, very sad to hear, Coach, and I'm real sorry for you, my man. I hate having to do that and trying to keep my focus on boxing, especially with someone so close to us as Coach,
Has our thoughts, prayers, and sympathy always, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, terrible stuff. Couldn't imagine. Anyway, some fights this weekend in a shocker, pretty much, I would say, because most of us thought that Albert Pagara was going to beat Cesar Juarez. That was the main event in a fight over the weekend, but that's not what happened. As a matter of fact, Juarez brutally knocked out Albert Pagara in the at 15 seconds of the 8th round after taking a beating in the end of the 7th round. Juarez improves to 18-5 with 11 knockouts, and Pagara loses for the first time in his career. He drops to 26-1. Now, he had been advised and followed the advice to go right to the hospital after this fight, and he underwent a series of tests, which included a CAT scan, and according to the doctors, everything came back okay, but they advised him to go back to his home country of the Philippines and get more tests just to make sure, which he's doing as we speak right now. So hopefully there'll be no repercussions from the knockout loss that Prince Albert Pagara suffered this past weekend. Now his brother, on the other hand, welterweight Jason Pagara. Why can't I say it today, Sal? I'm all messed up with the tragic news here. But he improves to 39-2 with 24 knockouts when he had a 3rd round stoppage over Abraham Alvarez, who drops to 21-10. Also, a fight that most of us got to see over the weekend. It was televised here in the States. Mario Barrios steps up. Really, the toughest opponent he's had in his early career in the super featherweight division. He improved 16-0 with 8 knockouts when he took out former world title challenger Davis Bashir, who drops to 39-5 with a draw and 21 knockouts. It was a 12-round fight that at times made me think about everything other than what I was watching. The judges scored the card the same, 120 to 107 across the board to give Barrios the win. Big fight for him, and I'm sure we're going to see him in some other fights. Now, before I move on with a couple of other results, Sal, you got to watch this fight as well, and what a size difference between these two guys. My only thought about it was that I thought maybe Barrios should have taken advantage of his size. Davis Bashir, he was trying to utilize his size disadvantage by fighting even smaller, and it seemed like Barrios didn't really have much of an answer. He stood up straight, and it took him almost 8 rounds to get his jab going, it seemed.
And that's exactly how it went down. Barrios had a overwhelming advantage with just keeping a jab going and moving. And Bashir didn't really know how to cut the ring off effectively, to move forward, to be aggressive, to look like he was going to be a threat to the body, and to do something, to chop down a tree and to work it up. I mean, that's how you got to do it. You got to cut that ring off, and he couldn't. He wasn't effective. In fact, there were times when his body was so open, and finally later in the fight, Barrios saw some of those opportunities. But I couldn't believe when I saw Bashir take his hands literally in front of his face with his elbows out there almost, by the top of his belly button. I'm like, what are you doing? He left the sides of his body so open. And I think Barrios eventually caught on to that and started landing on the sides.
I'm very critical of Teddy Atlas. At times, because when he says something, he acts like he's the right answer, and there's no argument. But he said that exact thing, Sal, and he was right. He was actually showing, he was using one of his helpers there as an example, but he was showing, the basically mistake that Davis was making when his hands were protecting his face, and how they were wide away from his body, leaving the sides of his body open. And Barrios, the inexperience showed that he didn't take advantage of it. And
that's the whole thing. What did Barrios have? Maybe 18 fights, 16 fights.
Well, he's 16-0 now.
16-0. Well, he had 16 fights in, huh?
No, the truth of the matter is he's never fought anybody of the caliber of Bashir. But the thing is Bashir, didn't fight like an experienced fighter either. But
no way.
Anyway, on the co-main event, Eddie Ramirez scored a 10-round unanimous decision over Jesse Roman to improve to 14-0 at 9 knockouts. Roman drops to 20-3, 99-91 twice, 98-92 to 3. Either way, the 3 judges scored it. And some other action in the super lightweight division, or junior welterweight, however you look at it. Jose Ramirez improved to 18-0 with 13 knockouts when he scored a 4th-round stoppage over Tomas Mendez, who drops to 22-8. And in the super featherweight division, Yaro Lopez improved to 20-6 with 13 knockouts when he scored a 12-round unanimous decision over Sergio Puente, who drops to 24-3. Also on that card, longtime fighter Miguel Mickey Roman improved to 56-11 when he scored a 3rd-round stoppage over Jerope Mercado, who drops to 27-8 with 3 draws. The official time on that one was 1 minute and 10 seconds. We were talking about the Kell Brook G fight, but there's a world championship fight on today over in Russia, and HBO will be broadcasting it tape delay tonight, so we'll get to talk about that, those results tomorrow morning. And Sergey Kovalev, light heavyweight world champion, is going to fight Isaac Chilemba in a fight that pretty much seems one-sided. But let me throw some stats at you, Sal, and get your thoughts. And it's kind of looking ahead. And the thing is that no fighter should ever look ahead of what's in front of him. And Sergey Kovalev, although he's undefeated, he's the world lightweight champion, He's 29-0 with a draw. He's got 26 of his 29 wins coming by knockout. He's got an 87% knockout ratio in his last bunch of fights. He's fought all the best the division has to offer, including B-Hop and Jean Pascal. His one draw is against a fighter I used to work with, Grover Young, which is kind of weird because the fight was an unintentional foul that Grover Young claimed to have gotten, and they went to the scorecards after 2 rounds. Usually a fight has to go 4 rounds before it's a legitimate fight, thus giving the draw, putting the draw on Kovalev's record. When you look at his opponent, Isaac Chilemba, he's a former IBO World Light Heavyweight Champion. He's ranked by the computer at number 13. He's actually younger than Kovalev, 4 years younger. He's 29. Kovalev's 33. And he's actually taller. He's got a 2-inch height advantage and a 1/2-inch reach advantage. His record is 24 wins with 3 losses and a couple of draws. Those 3 losses, he's never been stopped, but they all came against opponents that were, the upper echelon. And, when I look quickly at the next fight for Kovalev, they're gearing up a fight with Andre Ward, which is scheduled tentatively now for November, I think November 19th. But here's some interesting facts, Sal. Alexander Brand, who's Ward's opponent, is ranked number 24 by the computer in the light heavyweight division. If you recall, I just said Isaac Chilemba is ranked number 13 in the same division. Alexander Brand is 39 years old, 7 years older than Andre Ward. And remember, I just mentioned that Kovalev is fighting a 4-year younger Chilemba. And by the way, Andre Ward has a 2-inch height advantage over Alexander Brand, who's 2 inches shorter. And again, I'm telling you the opposite with Kovalev, who's fighting Chilemba, who's 2 inches taller. It seems to me that Andre Ward is taking the easiest way that he can find, and it looks to me that Sergey Kovalev is taking a little tougher challenge. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think it's just that, you said that they're gonna, fight and see, and you framed that pretty well, and there's nothing more to add from me. I mean, it's perfect. I agree with you. It's exactly what you said, and we'll see. I think Kovalev is a very good fighter all around, and should be a good fight. You gonna be able to catch it?
Yeah, I'll watch it later on when.
What time is it going to be live?
The fight is live. The fight is live around 1 p.m. Eastern time, but HBO is doing a tape delay. They'll be broadcasting, I think, tonight around 10. Right. So if I could stay up that late, being a petunia as I am, but it just makes me. Listen, I know that the fight that everybody wants to see in the light heavyweight division is Kovalev against Andre Ward, because Stevenson, to me, is a joke. And by the way, I don't know if you caught this, but Adonis Stevenson, we talk about how quickly he has just fell off the map and the radar in the light heavyweight division because he ducked Kovalev. Well, check this out. Something I didn't realize until the weekend. His next fight against a young fighter in Thomas Jr., is on Spike TV. It's not even being picked up by a cable network or anything. I mean, that just goes, no disrespect to Spike TV, but that just goes to show you that his popularity is continuing to sink deeper and deeper into the abyss.
That's right.
Hey, how about this? This is non-boxing news. How about the UFC? It was reported in the New York Times this weekend that the UFC has been sold, Sal, and Dana White confirmed it, even though he's been denying the rumors that have been floating around for the last several weeks. He confirmed it early this morning. The UFC has been sold to the, actually it's a sport agency, which is WME IMG. They had merged several years back, and apparently the deal is done. It was $4 billion, and apparently, according to Dana White, he's going to remain as the president and keep an interest in the company. but the ownership now belongs to WME and IMG. It's going to be interesting to see where that's going to go from now. $4 billion, Sal.
Cheapers, creepers.
I mean, it's hard to say no. It's hard to say no when somebody comes up with that kind of money, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hey, that's unbelievable amount of money.
Let me ask you this: if somebody came to you and offered you an outrageous amount of money for your restaurant that you've worked so hard in, would you take the money and run, or would you want to work a deal where you got the money and you still stayed as chief bottle washer at Sal's? I mean, Dana White. I mean, $4 billion, Sal. I mean, if it were me, I say UFC who, and I'm gone, man. I don't want the aggravation or the hassle or nothing. I take the money and run. What about you?
That's a heck of a question. You put that in a great perspective. I don't know. I love my staff. I love what we have here. I love the sizzle and everything else. And I don't know. That's a tough question. You gotta tell me the figure, and then I'll make my decision if it's a couple $1 million or just a little bit. I'd like to stay on for a while, and I think especially during a transitional period, it's my commitment, my obligation, my brand, my name, and so of course I'm not going to just want to walk away, take the money and run, so to speak.
Listen, if it was generation. No. I'm just saying. No, I'm not even going to mention a figure. I'm going to say if it's generational changing dollars. Okay, so we're talking about money that you can't spend in your lifetime that you're going to leave to generations after you. I take the money and I walk out the door. I mean, if somebody said to me, "Hey, here's X amount of money," I say, "Here are the keys. See ya." And I'm gone. So that's me. Yeah. I don't know. And you know what? If you miss it, the bottom line is I'm sure there's some kind of, you can't open up the same name or this type of restaurant, but you open up another one. You take your staff with you if you have to. I don't know.
It's good sense. Yeah. You know what I would do, and you know what I'm going to say, and you know what I would do.
What?
I would get my shoulder operated on, get
stop,
that back in shape, take off a year and train, and I'd make another comeback.
Yeah, all right. Well, that would be part of the sale for you. That you would not be that you would not be allowed to do that. That would be a stipulation. If I had anything to say, I would say the stipulation is that he can't make some kind of ridiculous statement like he's going to make another comeback or something like that. But anyway, here's an interesting thing. The other day we mentioned that former world champion Amat Ruingrung got knocked out by a 21-year-old amateur, and the other former or the other ex-champion, so to speak, falls as well. Hassam Nadam loses to a 23-year-old amateur. And is now out of the mix for his Olympic spot. So, again, we were talking about this the other day. And, by the way, the winner who beat Ruingrung was from Italy, Carmine Tomassoni. Beat him, 21 years old. Beat the guy who knocked out Ruingrung. And Nadam lost to a 23-year-old Colombian, Juan Carlos Carrillo, who was a big puncher and stalked Nadam around the ring and eventually won. He didn't stop him, but he won 3 rounds to none. So, it goes back to what I said. Maybe our pros enter the pro too long, or maybe our amateurs stick around in the amateur division too long. I 100% believe, Sal, that by handing pro fighters cupcake after cupcake after cupcake to build up records doesn't help them in the large scope of things.
No, it never will, never did. It's you're trying to cultivate a fighter's career. You're trying to bring him along and challenge him all along the way. If you don't, you're putting him in first time. He's fighting for a contendership or a title. Guy's gonna get his wake up call, and he's gonna say, "What do I do now?"
Exactly.
You have to have the experience, and you have to have the mentality, the mindset, and the heart that even when you're in a new zone in the fight game, and in your ring, and in you're in the middle of the heat, the battle, you're gonna respond accordingly, like you've been there and done that, and you're gonna be able to proceed and carry it in during the rest of the fight.
Joining us right now to give us the lowdown on what's going on in social media is my main man, Dax Con. What's up, Dax?
Good morning, gentlemen. How is everyone?
Good morning, Dax. How are you?
I can't complain. Does me no good.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help me either.
Nor me.
Well, I feel better sometimes anyway, but you know what today is, Bill? 7/11/16. This is 5 years ago, on this day, that me and you sat down and we started planning the Billy C. Boxing Hall of Fame event.
Oh, really? Huh. I'm glad.
Yeah,
It slipped my mind.
It popped up, you know, Facebook has that new feature now where it says your memories. And I had posted on there, you know, the day that, you know, we planned and, you know, we started getting the date together, and it just happened to pop up my timeline. I was like, well, 5 years. Wow, that went by quick.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Time flies, man. You know, and that's why I was just saying, you know, Dax, if someone knocked on my door and wanted to, you know, give me a decent sized check and have me walk away from, my empire here, I would take it in a heartbeat. Sal's hemming and hawing. Maybe I'd stick around. I mean, Dana White, $4 billion. Why stick around? The door couldn't hit me in the ass fast enough, man.
Well, you know, it's one of those things when you and Sal were speaking about that, all I thought about was Shark Tank. I love that show. And my son, my 12-year-old son, is who got me into that. And there's some people who really just believe in what they do, and they spend so much time building something. There was a gentleman who brought a product down there, and all these sharks were bidding for it, and the one said, listen, I'll give you $4 million for the whole product, and the guy was only asking for $100,000. I think he was going to even give 50% of the company away, but he wanted to stay involved, and he actually turned down the $4 million and walked away from the deal because he loved his idea so much. He wanted to be involved. It was his life's work.
Can't he come up with another idea? I mean, come on. Come on. For $4 million, I say idea schmeal. Take it. I go, man. I don't know. I mean, hey, I respect someone like that. But hey, Dax, I know you're going to give us the lowdown on social media, and I hope, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of it has to do with the big fight that was announced. Triple G taking on Kell Brook. Kell Brook stepping up and doing something that, you know, traditionally boxing has been known for, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much, and it seems to have disappeared over the last couple of decades. But Kell Brook, a welterweight world champion, stepping up to fight arguably the best middleweight in the world, and then some. You could even make the argument that he's a top pound-for-pound fighter in Triple G. Before you give us the lowdown on the social media opinions and thoughts and what's circulating around on that, what's your personal thoughts on this fight and the whole reason both fighters are doing it? Kell Brook stepping up, Triple G fighting in Kell Brook's backyard, and all the other issues surrounding it.
If I didn't know the reason behind it and more details and what people seem to understand, I'd be highly against it, considering what just happened with Canelo. But because I know so many details behind that, because I was just in the ear with Eddie Hearn the day the fight was announced, afterwards, I'm kind of excited about this, and it is kind of a throwback, a throwback moment. Triple G is sort of a throwback fighter, and it's hard for him to get opponents. And Kell Brook himself, Kell Brook has wanted these big opponents. He's called these guys out, but everybody is doing to him more or less what they've done to Triple G. They want the stipulations. He's not getting the respect he deserves. And Keith Thurman, look, Kell Brook wanted that fight a long time. Thurman got the Porter fight. Keith Thurman isn't looking to fight Kell Brook anytime soon. A lot of talk going on in boxing, but you know what? Nobody's really signing the contracts, and that's the issue, and that's how this came about.
Well, they would be very quick to say, like I'm waiting for Chris Eubank Jr. to come out and say, oh, Triple G ducked me. He didn't want to fight me. And, I was glad to see that Hearn came out and made it, perfectly clear that they were trying to make that fight, and that Team Eubank was making things so difficult with some outrageous demands that they had to go to Plan B, which, in my opinion, is going to be a better fight, despite the fact that Kell Brook is moving up in weight. He is going to have a height and reach advantage. He is a good boxer, and I love the fight. And I respect Kell Brook now, win, lose, or draw, more than honestly, than any other welterweight. When you look at the top welterweights, I have to respect him the most. Thurman would never do this. The guy that just retired, we all know he would never do it. And even a guy in his same weight class in Canelo Alvarez punks out. Listen, kudos to Kell Brook, 100%.
I agree with you.
It's not Chris Eubank Jr. It's Chris Eubank Sr., which is the issue.
Well,
Chris Eubank Sr., as we know, even when he was active, was kind of I don't know what you want to say, an eccentric type guy.
Definitely.
To be polite. But, they had everything. They were giving, pretty much, his career on a platter at this point in time, more than anybody can ask for. Chris Eubank Jr. was given the same exact deal as Carl Froch and Anthony Joshua, which is a tremendous deal, two huge stars, and there was always a complaint. They went back and forth. They had 24 hours to sign this contract. Team Eubank never answered back. They never got back. Listen, you have 24 hours. All the other negotiation, all the other talks were done. There was no way that Eddie Hearn could say, listen, I don't have a guy to put in there. How would that make Eddie Hearn look as a promoter? You don't have a fighter who's going to fight for a middleweight world title, and it was for a good amount of money. This is actually costing, I believe, Chris Eubank about $3 million U.S. and about transfers to about 4 or 5 million pounds. And so, however you want to look at it, this is just a bad situation for Chris Eubank Jr., who I believe and Eddie Hearn believes wants the fight. As far as Kell Brook, you have to give him credit. He's stepping up. He's doing what guys, as you stated, have done for years. They've stepped up to the challenge when available. The guy, the all-time greatest fighter, he had to leave the welterweight division to go to the middleweight division to get fights, to get big fights, not opponents, big fights, and that's Sugar Ray Robinson, and that's at a time when it was only 8 world titles and 8 divisions.
I just want to add this. I agree, with you, or I understand your point that, the stumbling block was Papa Eubank and not, Junior. But at the end of the day, when fighters and people come out and they say, well, it was this promoter that didn't make the fight, or the manager didn't want it, or the trainer didn't want it, that could be all BS, because at the end of the day, and I'm sure Sal can agree with me, maybe, I hope, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is this. If a fighter truly wants a fight, Dax, they say make the fight happen. I don't care. The money doesn't mean nothing. I want that fight. And obviously, Junior wasn't being loud enough with his desire to fight. And I can't wait for him to come out and say that Triple G ducked him and he wanted to fight, and leave out the difficulty in dealing with them issue.
I don't think we will. I think we're going to see what we're going to see in that situation is I actually believe we're going to see Chris Eubank Sr. and the father fall apart sooner than later.
They weren't even that tight. I didn't even think he was that tight in the team. He just was just up until recently he started appearing at these fights. I mean, I thought there was already a major conflict between the two. I was surprised to see him in the ring after Eubank's last win a couple of weeks ago.
He's micromanaging, he's micromanaging. So we've seen how that works out with those father-son teams many a times.
What's going on in social media?
Well, because of this fight, I don't know if anybody has seen the condition of Victor Postol and Terrence Crawford. My gosh, do these guys look like superstars. They are superstars, don't get me wrong. But all of a sudden, this fight where it was only getting a little bit of buzz and a lot of people that were kind of shooting down the idea of this being a pay-per-view, all of a sudden now everyone's excited. The two of them look just like, a prime Manny Pacquiao, and Manny would come out and flex, and you got two guys here at 140 pounds in their primes, two of the best active fighters in the world, and Terence Crawford is definitely a top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. Victor Postol might be teetering on that. Look for this to be a big pay-per-view, not huge, but it's going to be a lot bigger than what people are believed in at first, because this has just all of a sudden had a springboard with the signing of Triple G and Kell Brook.
That fight still, I think it's a great fight. I think they're making a mistake with it being as a pay-per-view. It's the same thing. I strongly think that it's a big mistake for Canelo and whoever he's fighting, Liam Smith, to be a pay-per-view. And I just think that these guys are the greed factor and the profit that's made on a pay-per-view for the promoter mostly is the reason for this. And I just think that the Victor Postol Terence Crawford fight, if that was on regular HBO, would help both their careers in the long run. By sticking it on a pay-per-view, I think they're making a mistake.
I believe that it is a mistake, but I also do believe that because of the situation that's going on, not just the Brook and the Triple G situation, but a few other situations like that in the sport. We can even go to like the Canelo and the Con fight. Those type of things that are really bothering people have really given us that springboard it needs. The last time two undefeated 140-pound fighters in their primes went at it is when Timothy Bradley took on Devin Alexander. These guys are a lot more exciting than Timothy Bradley or Devin Alexander.
But nobody's ever heard of them. That's my point. We've heard of them because we talk about boxing every single day. But the crossover fan, the water cooler boxing fan who's at the office talking about the football games on Monday, talking about the big baseball games, and the huge boxing events are not going to be talking about this fight because they haven't even heard. That's the problem with Terence Crawford. He's such a great fighter, nobody's ever heard of. And quite honestly, Dax, you and I have talked about this off the air many, many times. It's the same situation with Andre Ward. Andre Ward has been such a diva that the only people that have heard of him are diehard boxing fans. There's so many other people that have heard of Mike Tyson and even the Klitschko brothers. And you mentioned Andre Ward, they never heard of him because he was never promoted right. He's wanted to stay in his own little world in Oakland, which he doesn't even draw that well there anyway. So I think in order to be successful at the pay-per-view level, you have to be marketed. People have to know who you are. You have to be in a position where not just diehard boxing fans are going to buy your events. And I think that's going to be the problem with Postol Crawford. Now, I'm not so sure that that'll carry over to Canelo because Canelo has a large following. But that fight is his fight with Liam Smith is definitely not going to be competitive. And then the co-main event with Ortiz and Ustinov, that's not going to be competitive either. That's a waste of people's money, I'll tell you.
I'll agree with you.
Yeah, right? I mean, Sal.
You know what? You said it clearly weeks ago, Bill. When we used to hear about a pay-per-view fight, that meant a mega fight. That meant something very, very special. And everything else was still special, but it was previewed on a HBO or on something else or other some kind of venue or on national TV. But the pay-per-views were for the elitists and this very, very special once in a while fights.
Exactly, and they were nurtured. And you saw these guys on television, and they were in the news, and people knew who they were, and that's what made the pay-per-view so successful. And it carries on with big names like the Pacquiaos and Canelo to a degree, and so on and so forth. Today, with people that make the news, but at the end of the day, Victor Postol and Terence Crawford are not big names, and I just think that they're going to do okay. They're going to get their 200,000-300,000 buys from diehards like us, But, you're talking about if they were promoted correctly, turning a couple of 100,000 into a $500,000, which is way more money. I don't know. That's just my thoughts, Dax.
You're right on, man. Right on. I share your same sentiments there, buddy.
Speaking of Dana White, okay, a while ago, I watched a story on him, and he was speaking about the internet and social media. And that is how he built the UFC into such a huge company. Dana said once he's seen the internet starting to take off, whether it's chat rooms, and especially with the development of social media sites, and he's dating all the way back to when people were, when the MySpace was popular, he said this is what the future of sports is. And he's 100% correct, because when we sit there and we watch our Twitter lines and we watch our Facebook or our Instagram, everything is promotion, and a lot of it is self-promotion. Even world champions with big names are promoting themselves continuously. They have that interaction with the fans. Fans feel as though they know them, and that is why promoters today have become so lackadaisical, because they know as long as they have themselves a fighter who is fan-friendly or even hated by fans, but as long as they interact, and these promoters, they watch exactly how many followers and how many interactions that these fighters get or an event gets or little comments they send out, and that tells them, listen, this is what I can do. I can either invest my time into this or I can invest my time into something else, and in the end, I'm going to decide how much of that money I can keep in my more reward for little work. And that's the biggest problem in boxing today.
Yeah, but you know what, Dax? I think that a lot of promoters are missing the boat because they focus only on social media now. They've taken it to a level where, we've seen it many, many times with fights. I'm involved with it where there'll be a fight card we're working on, and the promoter, all they're doing is sending out Facebook entries and Twitter tweets and so on and so forth to promote their event. And, when it comes to boxing is still a sport that needs those people to hit the pavement and posters and the old time. It's still a combination of both. Face it, every other sport not only is big in social media, but they're also big on, normal advertising routines. And boxing seems to have left the normal, and they stick with social media. To me, it's a form of laziness, and again, the G word, greed, because the promoter doesn't have to pay for, somebody to tweet things or put Facebook entries out and so on and so forth. So I think boxing needs that old-fashioned promotion in addition, not replacing, but in addition to social media to keep it, on everybody's mind. And I think the Crawford Postol is a great example of that.
Absolutely. And if anything, social media, if the promoters were doing things correctly, not only would they be able to promote as when promoters used to promote, as you stated last week, I do believe Don King is the best promoter of the last few eras. The greatest promoter of all time is Tex Rickard. Can you imagine what Tex Rickard would have done with social media? My gosh, definitely would have made billions back then.
Yeah, but you know why I think Don is better than Tex? And you're right, Tex Rickard was a great promoter. Tex Rickard had a big advantage. He was dealing with really the only sport that people cared about was boxing and horse racing and just baseball, a little bit of Major League Baseball during those eras. And by the time Don King was promoting, you had to compete with football, NFL football, not just college football, but football and baseball and the rise of basketball and even hockey to a degree, So I give him credit for still doing that. Listen, like I said to Sal the other day, during the era of Tom Molyneux, promoters would promote fights where they would get 5,000 and 10,000 people show up and they'd sell tickets without a date, time, or location. Now that's a promoter,
Oh, remember, yeah, they would parade the champion around the country.
Right. Well, that was after the fights. That's how they made their money. But anyway, any other social media topics we need to hear about?
Yeah, I mean, there's two. There's one that I just want your opinion, Sal's opinion on, and another one that, it's kind of really bothering me on a personal level, not only as a person, but as a parent, and I think, it's bothering a lot of people, and something that should be addressed, especially because it pertains to our sport quite a bit. Brandon Rios, last thing on social media, he announces he's free. His Top Rank contract has expired. What does this mean? Is Brandon Rios a guy who has a chance to bring his career back? This is a kid who at one point in time we all had high hopes for, and his last few fights, Top Rank has pretty much used him as an opponent, a name, a guy who people recognize, and he's somebody that these big names, whether it's a Pacquiao or a Bradley or whoever it is, has a chance to go in there and put on a show, look spectacular, and build up interest for them to go into another fight. What is left for Brandon Rios? Has Top Rank been kind of holding him back, or could Top Rank have, this point in time, when Brandon's kind of fallen off there, said, listen, kid, we have to rebuild you, get you with a new team because you're ending your career quickly?
Well, we all knew that Brandon Rios' career was going to end exactly how it appears to be. As a matter of fact, I didn't think he was going to hang on the way he seemingly wants to. He's looking to pad his bank account, I would think. But the style of fighter he is and was, we knew that it was going to stop quickly. And I think that Top Rank, from a business perspective, sees that his best days are behind him as far as in the ring, and maybe they're doing him a favor by freeing him up because they don't want to be criticized for feeding him to some young lions, and Brandon Rios apparently is making that choice on his own.
He's definitely always had that style from day one that doesn't last long in the sport. It's one of those styles that fizzle out quickly because of the amount of punishment he takes.
Yeah, hey, listen, I can understand his point. He sees guys like Sal Santa Cola fighting at 57 years old, 58 years old. He sees Paulie Malignaggi still fighting. I mean, he sees all these guys that say they retire and they retire is just a joke. They still fight. I mean, he wants a piece of the money, man. I mean,
I went to Bobby Ches's 3 retirement parties.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Bobby Ches, same thing. He retires, he comes back, he fights at a bigger weight. So,
It's the weight we gain in between retirement.
I know. Trust me, I know.
Last thing, we all know, since we talk about, on social, not so much in social media, but the events that go on in this world on the Billy C. Morning Show. We all know the tense situation there is in this country when it comes to race, and especially with the recent killings of the police officers down in Dallas. Recently, there has been such a surge, not only by boxing fans, but by a lot of well-known fighters on social media with the nonsense that has been coming out of them, talking about being victims. Victims of what? You're victims of our people. Our people have been persecuted. Our people have this. Our people have that. And it's always poor us, poor us, poor us. And some of these people out there, and I'm going to start naming them, not today, but soon enough, I'm going to start shaming them, the way they are promoting these young kids into actually standing up and becoming violent and resisting and fighting back against these police officers and this government. Now, there are a lot of bad police officers out there. Don't get me wrong. A lot of them are excessive. Social media has not helped with the fact that everybody with a camera can just sit there and put out there a small clip of an incident that took place and turn it into something that, that might not have been the whole story. And these recent shootings are horrible. These fighters, and we say it all the time, maybe you don't want to be a role model, you didn't sign up to be a role model, but these kids, they admire you because of who you are. They want what you have, but when you're out there telling them to go and be violent, go, these cops need killed, go and do this, fight back, don't listen, screw the man, don't go to school, show everybody you can't be pushed around. What are you doing? You're encouraging these kids to do nothing with themselves. They're not going to be like you. These kids don't have the millions of dollars. They've never been on TV. They've never known what it's like to be able to sit there, lay down in their bed at night knowing they have 6 or 7 figures in their bank account. They have a fight coming up on TV, a high pay-per-view, and you're encouraging them to do nothing but be exactly what you got away from, and you guys should be ashamed of yourselves, because a lot of these guys I know personally that are encouraging this, they've never dealt with any of the stuff that they're trying to say that they need to overcome. Me personally, Bill, I come from a mixed race. I come from a Puerto Rican and Asian family. We grew up in the most horrid place of Brooklyn back in the 90s, known as the Killing Fields. That was the most gang-infested area with the most murders, and on top of that, that's where the mafia was dumping their bodies, and it was horrible. We wanted to get out of there in the worst of ways, but you know something? Our parents kept a tight grip on us, luckily, and you know, we made it out. Not everybody did, but certainly the people we looked up to at that point in time in the 80s and in the early 90s, they never encouraged us to go out there and act up and resist and not do anything better with ourselves, but to go and do the exact same things that are getting all these other kids killed. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed of all of these guys.
Well said. And
well said.
You know,
Very well said.
the bottom line is it's a shame to see. I mean, Sal and I are old enough to, you know, have been young during the worst racial riots, at least of the last 100 years. And in my opinion, it seemed that, you know, not that prejudice was erased, because it certainly isn't, but a lot of it was good. You know, a lot of things, I see a lot more continuity between, you know, different races, different religions, et cetera, et cetera. And then over the past handful of years, it seems that it's regressed, and that these young people that are crying foul and crying racism, and even for myself, you know, just because I can't stand Floyd Mayweather for the type of human being he is, people refer to me as a racist, which is very, you know, disheartening for me and totally untrue. And like you and I have talked off air, Dax, about this subject, it just seems that they're pulling a race card and using it as a battle cry, when really they shouldn't. They're too young. They should be talking to their grandparents and great-grandparents, and those people will smack them upside the head and say, what the hell are you doing? That's not what we want. That's not what we fought for during those eras in the 60s and prior, you know. And it's a shame that people use things as an escape, and it seems like that's happening today. And I do agree with what you started out at. There's a lot of bad cops out there, and our government needs a lot of help in some of the crazy stuff they do. So I'm not for a minute saying
and
that.
There's a lot of good ones out there too.
Well, I'm not for a minute saying that, you know, they're all good and everyone else is all bad, because I don't believe that. I don't even want to get into my beliefs, but I do think that you know, some of the racial tension could be avoided and should be avoided, and really, I think it's horrific. But well said.
You know what? When we speak about tough, and I had a good friend of mine, Carlo Marazita, who passed away a couple of years ago in his mid-80s, and his wife Carmela, and they would speak to me. I'd go over to the house for the Italian coffee. And because Carmelo and I just, you know, he was just a great guy, and we would talk about things in life. And Carmelo would tell me stories about World War II when she was a kid over in Italy. And a story that she told me, and I actually made my children listen to the story one time, because she told it to me several times, and it's always stuck with me, and it always will. About a time when she was just a little girl, and she was at the same age, she said, as my son, who was only 7 at the time. She remembers going outside to play, and she was so excited because she seen the planes fly by, and she had never seen a plane before. She came from a very poor section of Italy, and all these balloons, she said, came out of these planes. Her birthday was the next day. She started screaming, yelling, jumping up and down, because she thought her parents had set up a surprise for her, and these planes were dropping out balloons for her birthday celebration.
Wow.
And, of course, those balloons were bombs. And for the next 2 weeks, her and her family lived in a cave.
That's terrible.
And that is what tough is, because you know something, when she came here, Her and her family came here with nothing. They scrimped and scrounged on the streets. They ate garbage, and they made something of themselves. She made something of herself. Her husband made something of himself. They were both immigrants. They came here. They did the right thing. They never stole. They weren't rich, and they never hated anybody for anything else that happened. They never blamed anybody. They were just grateful for what they had and grateful that they raised 2 healthy children. What happened to this type of mentality, man? What happened? Where are these type of people in the world today? And especially the fact that people that look up to you, you're just going to tell them to do wrong.
Well, Dax, thanks for pointing that out and bringing it up. And I say it's a tough one. It's a tough one. So hey, listen, maybe tomorrow you can give us an update on what's going on in the social media world, and you can keep us up to date most of the week.
Absolutely. And here's I'll end it off on a good note. A buddy of mine contacts me, and he says, Dax, check this out. I found all these magazines in the back of my father's closet. And I said, well, what type of magazines? Prime vintage Muhammad Ali magazines dating back to 1964. 20 of them of him on the cover of boxing magazines. He goes, wow. What do you think I should do with them?
Well, I would save them because, that kind of stuff, there was so many printed, there's probably a lot. I mean, we've seen it at the Hall of Fame, and but you never know. If there's some rare ones and they're in mint condition, you never know. There's always a market for stuff, especially now.
He has the one of Muhammad Ali, the very first time Ali was on the cover of Ring magazine in plastic.
Oh, that's good.
Are you kidding me? That's great, good. Man.
I tell you, the ones that
you
work.
Find them in the back of your closet. Can you imagine that? I'd have jumped. It'd have been like winning the lottery for me.
The ones that appear to be worth the most are the ones on the cover of Sports Illustrated and People magazine, and those. Rolling Stone, he was on a couple of times. So the ones that aren't sports related, I thought might have had more value, but I don't know. But Dax, thanks for all the info, and we'll look forward to tomorrow, man.
All right, everybody, enjoy your day, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right,
Dax, thank you. Have a good day, buddy.
That's Dax Con.
Yeah.
Kind of shedding some bumming news, but reality, right?
It's a reality check.
It's the way it is. Absolutely. Well, on tomorrow's show, we're going to talk, obviously, about the fight between Kovalev and Isaac Chilemba, which is taking place today in Russia.
Yes.
It will be on air somewhere around 1 p.m. Eastern Time, but HBO will be broadcasting the tape delay tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, so tune in for that. One thing I wanted to add before we pack it in today, the Major League Baseball is at their All-Star break right now, and I just wanted to give a quick rundown of where each division and conference stands. In the American League, in the East, no, the Yankees aren't near the top. Orioles.
They will be. After this break, they're going to come right to the top.
The Orioles are 2 games in first place ahead of the Boston Red Sox. In the Central Division, the Indians, 6.5 games in first place ahead of the Detroit Tigers. And out west, the Rangers hold a 5.5 game lead over the Houston Astros. Now, when you look at the National League in the East, the Nationals have a comfortable lead over 6-game lead over both the Mets and the Marlins, who are tied for second place, being 6 games out. In the Central, the Cubbies have a 7-game lead, the biggest lead out of all the teams, in first place ahead of the St. Louis Cardinals. And out west, the Giants have a 6.5 game lead over the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are in second place. So that's where Major League Baseball stands. No big deals in football. We did talk about the big deal in basketball last week. And hockey, well, they're not thinking about hockey right now. And like I said earlier, the UFC sold to IMG and WME. I was going to say WWE for $4 billion. Slightly less than what Sal was offered for his restaurant in St. Simon's, and Sal laughed at them and turned it down. Any final thoughts, Sal?
Yeah, I turned that offer down, but hey, you never know what the next offer might come up. I might entertain a little bit more.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that. As I wrap it up today. Now, tomorrow we're going to have a trivia question, so everybody get their thinking caps on. And to be honest with you, it is a replay, I should say, of a trivia question that none of you has got right so far. But on this day in boxing history, on July 11th in 1936, Freddie Steele wins a 15-round decision over Babe Risco to win the NBA and New York State world middleweight titles that took place in Seattle. On this day in 1961, Terry Downs knocks out Paul Pender in the 10th round to win the world middleweight title that took place in London. On this day in 1977, Wilfred Gomez knocks out Raul Tirado in the 5th round to regain the WBC World Junior Featherweight title. Took place in Puerto Rico, San Juan to be exact. On this day in 1949, the best ever, Sugar Ray Robinson wins a 15-round decision over Kid Gavilan, another pretty damn good fighter, to retain the world welterweight title, and that took place in Philadelphia. Notice I said welterweight. That's correct for all you fans that don't even remember Sugar Ray Robinson as a welterweight, and rightly so. There's no footage of him. He was considered the best welterweight of all time, made a lot more of his fame as a middleweight. On this day in 1992, Gianfranco Rossi wins a 12-round decision over Gilbert Dealey to retain the IBF World Junior Middleweight title. Took place in Monte Carlo. And on this day, July 11th in 1996, Riddick Bowe beats Andrew Golota via 7th-round DQ to improve to 39 wins, 1 loss in their scheduled 12-round fight. Golota loses for the first time. He drops to 28-1. This fight took place at Madison Square Garden in New York City. And trust me, everybody remembers the melee that took place in this one. Sal, I look forward to our discussions tomorrow in the post-Kovalev Chilemba fight, and as well as any more news on the anticipated matchup between Triple G and Kell Brook.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be, we're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow. And I'll tell you, that Triple G Kell Brook, I'm excited about it, Bill. I am very excited about it.
I am too, and I'm looking forward to it. I especially feel that Kell Brook's value has skyrocketed, and he doesn't even have to win the fight. I think just...
Well, that's what I said. You go ahead. Yeah, he's in a great position, and that's why he doesn't have anything to really lose.
Right, and I think that I hope. Let me rephrase it. I hope that he sends a strong message to all the other duckers and easy goers and Floyd Mayweather's. Oh, I'm sorry, I mentioned his name of the boxing world. Sal, I look forward to tomorrow, my man.
We'll look forward to speaking to you then. I might be in Gatorville or maybe an undisclosed area that you might hear some rattlers in the background, but we'll have fun and we'll have a lot to talk about.
Not again. But for everyone else, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.